Imagine waking up on a perfectly normal morning. Your alarm rings. You get out of bed. You grab your coffee. And just as you begin to wonder why you're awake this early, something impossible happens. Without warning, gravity disappears. Not for 1 hour, not for 1 minute, but for only 10 seconds. That might not sound like much, but those 10 seconds could change the world forever. During the first second, almost nobody would understand what was happening. People, animals, and every object that wasn't attached to the ground would suddenly become weightless. Your chair would float, your phone would leave your hand, your breakfast would become a cloud of cereal, milk, and regret. But gravity disappearing wouldn't immediately launch everyone into space. The Earth would still be spinning. And because you were already moving with the planet before gravity vanished, you would continue moving in roughly the same direction. Inside a closed room, you might simply float upward and crash into the ceiling, which is exactly what happens to Theo. By the second, the situation would become much more dangerous. Cars would lose contact with the road, drivers could turn their steering wheels, but without friction against the ground, their vehicles would be almost impossible to control. People standing outside would begin drifting upward. Some would grab trees, some would hold on to buildings, and some would make the terrible decision to start recording. Airplanes would also face a strange situation. They wouldn't instantly fall, because they were already moving through the air. But without gravity, their usual balance between lift, weight, thrust, and drag would completely change. Pilots would have only seconds to understand a situation that had never happened before. During the third second, water would become one of the biggest problems. The oceans would no longer be held tightly against the surface of the Earth, but 10 seconds would not be enough for all the water to completely escape into space. Instead, the surface of the oceans would begin rising and breaking apart. Enormous waves and floating masses of water would form above the planet. Inside homes, water would leave glasses, sinks, toilets, and bathtubs. Theo's coffee would finally be free. By the fourth second, loose objects across the planet would begin floating. Rocks, soil, sand, garbage, construction materials, anything that wasn't firmly attached could rise from the ground. Buildings would not immediately fly into space, because their foundations and internal structures would still hold many of them together. But elevators, cranes, and construction sites would become extremely dangerous. Inside factories, machines designed to operate under normal gravity could malfunction. Fuel and liquids would move unpredictably through pipes. Objects would collide, and millions of people would be trapped against ceilings, desperately waiting for gravity to return. But the strangest danger would be completely invisible. The atmosphere itself. Gravity is what keeps the atmosphere surrounding our planet. Without it, the air would begin expanding away from Earth. Fortunately, 10 seconds would not be enough for the entire atmosphere to disappear. But air pressure near the surface could start changing. Winds would become unpredictable. Loose clouds would shift, and some of the upper atmosphere could begin moving farther into space. For people inside sealed buildings, the immediate change might be small, but people outdoors, on mountains, or inside aircraft could experience dangerous pressure differences. And then comes an even bigger question. What happens to the moon? The moon stays in orbit because Earth's gravity constantly pulls it inward, while its motion carries it forward. Without that gravitational pull, the moon would begin moving along a straighter path. But once again, 10 seconds is extremely short on a cosmic scale. The moon would not suddenly vanish into deep space. Its position would only change slightly. When gravity returned, its orbit could be altered by a tiny amount. Probably not enough to destroy Earth, but enough to remind us that even the largest objects in the sky depend on gravity. Satellites would face a similar problem. For 10 seconds, they would stop following their normal curved orbits and travel in straighter lines. When gravity returned, some satellites might continue operating normally. Others could enter altered orbits, and a few might eventually fall toward Earth or drift away. By seconds 8 and 9, the world would look completely different. People inside buildings would be pressed against ceilings. Outdoor crowds could be several meters above the ground. Cars, furniture, and debris would float through cities. Animals would panic. Ships would be surrounded by unstable floating water, and everyone would be asking the same question: will gravity ever come back? Theo grabs the strongest object he can find. Unfortunately, it is a lamp. Then, After 10 impossible seconds, gravity returns all at once. The moment gravity returned would be far more dangerous than the moment it disappeared. Everything that had floated upward would fall. People near ceilings would crash onto floors. Cars and debris would slam into streets. Water suspended above oceans. Lakes and cities would collapse downward. The result would be enormous waves, floods, and destruction. People outdoors could fall from several meters above the ground. In some locations, falling debris would cause more damage than the weightless event itself. Aircraft would need to recover quickly as their normal weight suddenly returned. Ships could be hit by falling water, and emergency services would face chaos across the entire planet. 10 seconds without gravity might sound like a short adventure, but for millions of people, those 10 seconds could be fatal. After gravity returned, scientists would begin investigating the greatest mystery in human history. Why did gravity disappear? Could it happen again? Did the event change the moon's orbit? Were satellites damaged? And most importantly, how do you prepare for something that should be impossible? Buildings might be redesigned with emergency handholds. Furniture could be attached to floors. Vehicles could receive automatic anchors. And every person on Earth would remember exactly where they were during the 10 seconds. The planet became weightless. Gravity is so constant that we rarely think about it. It keeps our feet on the ground. It holds the oceans in place. It keeps the atmosphere around the planet. And it guides Earth, the moon, and countless objects through space. Without gravity, even for only 10 seconds, our familiar world would become unrecognizable. But now, there is one final question. What would happen if gravity didn't disappear for 10 seconds, but became twice as strong? Subscribe to Stick Theory and join us as we explore impossible worlds, strange realities, and the biggest question of all, what if?